My name's Brian Tagan. I am a recovering heroin addict. My sobriety date is January 31st, 2022. Yeah, over 2 years. It's only because of God's grace, God's mercy, and His faithfulness that I am here today. Before we begin, a couple shout-outs real quick. First off, the leadership and staff, the production team up there. Thank you guys for everything. Bethany, you guys are awesome. Thank you for everything you guys do. My guy, pastor, the lead pastor here at Bethany, Brent Deffenbacher. I don't think he's here right now, but Brent, thank you for rolling out the red carpet for the recovery community, man. Thank you so very much. And then last, special thanks to Touchstone. I know there's a lot of people in here from Touchstone. They provided a lot of refreshments here tonight. And, Kenny, where's Kenny at? Kenny's over here. Sarah, Alan, Ralph, all you guys, man. You guys make this place definitely a better community. So thank you very much. Yeah, Touchstone. All the staff. All right, so for some of you who are unfamiliar with 21 Pathways, we are a recovery support group. We meet out here on Tuesday nights at 6:30 to 7:30 in the portables right outside these doors. Long story short, we translate scripture through our recovery stories. But at the end of the day, it's about one thing. It's about community. So if you're looking to connect with us, you can find us at these places up here. Now, at 21 Pathways, we've done some really cool events. However, one in particular I'm really excited for, all right, this Saturday, June 8th, we're having our second annual Memorial Recovery Softball event. Yeah, that's right. So last year, if you're not familiar with the story, along with the Zachary Horton Foundation, Jim and Lynn Horton, what we did was we created this amazing softball game, and we played for this amazing Zachary Horton trophy. There it is right there. It's been at First Street Church. Yeah. So what it was we had the drug addicts, the recovering drug addicts, play against the recovery alcoholics. And let's just say the blue team went home dry that night. Yeah. And so we were able to take, the red team went home high, actually, right? But anyways, we took home the trophy. This year it's grown a little bit more. And we got 4 teams playing. I think all the coaches are here. Where's Antonio at? There we go, Antonio, 2 years right here. He's representing Fahaka, Fentanyl Anonymous. Where's Howie at? Is Howie here? There we go, Fentanyl Anonymous, Heroin Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous. We got, where is Will at? Will from Celebrate Recovery. Where is he at? Yeah, Will. So they're the new guys on the block, right? They're playing 21 Pathways. Will is representing Celebrate Recovery. He's got 12 years sobriety, right, Will? Yeah. Yeah, 12 years. Is Jared here? Where's Jared at? Is Jared here? Jared's not here. Jared's our coach. He's got 21 months sobriety. Wherever you're at, Jared, we're with you, right? And then, this guy right here, the coach of the Trudgers. You know what? Why don't we play that video, Paul? The Trudgers. We'll introduce Sal that way. Yeah? What do you say?
Hello, my name's Kenny.
And my name is Louis.
Hi, my name is Lauren. I am an alcoholic, and my sobriety date is December 30th, 2012.
What's up, 21 Pathways? My name's John. My sobriety date is 8/6/22.
Hi, my name's Eric. My sobriety date is January 26th of 2020.
And we're here to give a little shout out to Sal. I met Sal in 2019 through AA and My Time Recovery. And in 2022, Sal became my sponsor and has helped me with my sobriety.
And I've met Sal through Kenny and the work he was doing with the NCCAA. Eventually, Sal started working for us at Touchstone, so now he's our coworker. Sal's a great guy, and I'm happy to do this video for him.
And Sal represents a man of integrity to me. He always shows up and helps people out and holds true to his word.
I met Sal through Frozen Fellowship, through Young People's, and then we spent about 6 years going ahead and doing service work together, being on committees, as well as hosting the 49th year of ACIPA for Fresno and Visalia County, which was pretty amazing. Also really intense, but truly spectacular. The influence that Sal has had on me as well as others, I think, is his example to really bring people together and create that community-like atmosphere where it's not just friends, it's more like family. As an example, I think what Sal really does show is a love for service work, a love to give and spread the word, spread the message. But my most favorite part is that he definitely does seek out his recovery as he sought out his addictions with that passion, that fierce, that unyielding energy, that rapacious creditor, if you will, for healing and the power of that message that there is hope.
I met Sal a couple years ago when I first moved to Fresno, and now he is my sponsor. Sal to me, he's just full of wisdom that he's poured into my life, which has been able to help me and excel not only in my recovery but also in my faith, which is another big thing. He's brought God, into our relationship, which to me is of utmost importance, and he's made it a number one priority. Sal's just that guy that you can go to, and he's gonna tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. And that's the type of people that I need in my life, and that's what he's been for me.
Sal is my sponsor and also one of my best friends. Sal has had an impact on my life by showing me how to prioritize the things that really matter, and Sal is an excellent example of service and including others.
I love you, Sal.
We love you, Sal. Keep doing the work you're doing, man.
Sal, I love you, brother. I appreciate you, and I hope that you feel as celebrated as you deserve to. Thank you, brother.
Yeah. So without further ado, Sal Williams. So where do you want to start, Sal? You want to start back in the day?
Sure.
All right.
My name's Sal, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm also a drug addict. My sobriety date is 12/31/2016.
Can you pull this one a little bit closer? A little bit closer. There you go.
All right. Can you guys hear me pretty good? It's not on.
Mic check.
Mic check.
go.
There we
Yeah.
go. There we go. We're good?
Production team.
All right, let's start this. My name's Sal, and I'm an alcoholic. I'm also a drug addict. My sobriety date is 12/31/2016. It is an honor to be here. I want to thank Brian for having me. The hospitality is awesome, and I want to share that I feel the love. So thank you.
We love you, man. Absolutely. Yeah, let's start off back in the day. Let's start off when you're 6, 8 years old.
All right.
Let's get after it. Well, I know we...
Can we first open up
Oh,
with the
yeah.
set-aside
Yes,
prayer?
absolutely. That's my fault. Let's do it. You want to lead us?
Sure. After a moment of silence for those who are still struggling and that aren't in this seat, we'll open it up with the serenity prayer. God, please help me set aside everything I think I know about myself, about others, about my recovery, and about you, God, so that I may have an open mind and a new experience. God, please help me see the truth. All right. So Brian wants to go back to my childhood. Just to paint a picture, it's that's me that's a baby picture, but that's me back in 1982. So yeah, to paint a picture, I was born in Kern County, but my parents relocated. I started off my journey in Bell Gardens. I could remember at the age of 6 riding my bike home, and it was late at night. I could remember riding up to my house and being met by this lady that was unfamiliar. She was somebody that I didn't recognize. But let's rewind 2 weeks prior to that. My mom pulled me aside, and she had said, "I'm going to bury this stack of money in the backyard. If anybody asks, show them where it's at." So this was the moment, like, I pull up, she approaches me, she says, your house just got raided, where's the money? My parents were incarcerated, my house just got raided, they sold drugs, heroin to be exact. And mind you, I'm 6 years old, I'm confused, this was my normal childhood at this time, mind you. Which there was no sense of normalcy. So my mom eventually bailed my dad out, and they ended up letting my mom out first, and then my mom bailed my dad out, and we did a geographical to Bakersfield. And I remember just not having any kind of stable living, but eventually I ended up in foster care. My dad ended up getting arrested. I can't tell you exactly how long they gave him. I want to say 16 years, but I was doing the math, Brian, when I was speaking with you, and it might not have been that long. It might have been like 10 years, because I was trying to do a time frame. Mind you, this is so. My younger years wasn't normal. There was nothing normal about my upbringing. I had all those feelings of abandonment early on. So I ended up in foster care, and I could remember feeling that feeling of abandonment, but also showing up to my foster home. And I finally found a sense of what a family should feel like. I got to be a kid. So I share this because I always ask myself why, As a kid, you go through a lot of things emotionally, the abandonment, the why, why is drugs more important than your own kids? So I want to fast forward a little bit because I don't want to get too in depth, but I moved in with my adopted parents, my mom Cindy and Jeff. They raised me and welcomed me in. My last name's Williams. I don't look like a Williams, but they were this Caucasian family. My mom was a nurse. My dad owned his asphalt company, but they took me in as one of their own, and I got to be a kid. So let's fast forward. I can remember being in junior high. I come home one day, and I get home. I set my stuff down in my room, and my mom comes in with the phone, and she says, your aunt's on the phone, your Aunt Pauline. And so I grabbed the phone. I just felt something was wrong. And my aunt was hysterical. She was crying. And she said that my mom had passed. She had caught an abscess in her arm, and it caused blood poisoning to her heart. The abscess was caused through drug use. And I remember throwing down the phone and being completely all those feelings of abandonment. And I remember this clear. I didn't care that my mom was a drug addict. I didn't care what I went through. It was at this time, all I knew is I wanted my mom back. And so I had all those feelings come back full force. And I remember my mom, she held on. She held on to me, and she says, I'm here for you, So I asked myself, why, why? And and I share the why because eventually it'll come to place later on in my story. So it's important. So I went on. I eventually went through high school, a lot of drinking, dabbing in some drugs, but mainly drinking. And I know that early on for me, there was nothing casual about the way I drank, you know. I drank for the effect, and I never remembered being, I don't even know, what do they call it, buzzed? Yeah, I don't know what, I drank to get messed up. So I went through, my high school, a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, but I did graduate. That was me. That was a good friend of mine, Vince. Back then, it was like a lot of deep house parties. You guys, I don't know, maybe I'm giving up my age, but the boots, the jeans. Come on, you guys know. But I did graduate, and I started working immediately after. I met my wife maybe two years after graduating. We ended up getting married in 2002, and then we packed up and we moved to the mind you, I skipped out. I got adopted out to the high desert, which I don't know if you guys know, Hesperia, Victorville, Apple Valley. So we did a geographical from the high desert to Fresno. Her parents moved out here a couple years prior. And so there was always periods of my time where I knew that, like, my drinking eventually, like, my stories really, like, alcohol stopped working, so I resorted to other substances. And people always ask me, what was the turning point where you graduated into, harder drugs? And for me, like I shared, like, I drank for the effect. I get messed up. I'm going to try not to curse because I know where we're at, but a lot of times it's for me, it's good for me to recognize that, because eventually, like, I started feeling like the alcohol wasn't enough. And I didn't dive in deep into the hard stuff until I was 28. And so this is what it looked like for me, okay? Like, I've always had that why. My parents sold drugs. They sold heroin. And so that heroin was always in the back of my mind, So when it finally presented itself, like, I did it. And I liked the way, the effects it produced. And the same exact way, I liked the way that first drink felt the first time I used it, or I drank. Without going too deep into that, what I can say is I ran amok from the age of 28 to 38. That's 10 years, right? But 5 years prior to that, like, I'm dabbing with other stuff. And so...
And this is in Fresno, when you moved to Fresno,
Yeah,
correct?
this is when I moved to Fresno.
And then when did Cindy pass?
Okay, so 2 years after high school, I used to manage Chuck E. Cheese. Yeah. I used to...
Those animals on the wall, man.
Yeah, whoa. I was trying to leave that part out, but no, I'm just playing. No, so I used to manage restaurants in Chuck E. Cheese. So I'm at work one day, and I get a call. Thank you for...
Yeah, and this is in Fresno, correct?
No, this is in
High Desert.
The High Desert.
Got it.
And I'm driving back and forth from Hesperia to Fontana, because I worked in Fontana. So I get a call, come home. I clocked out, came home, and my aunt met me at the door, and she was hysterical, and she had told me that my mom had passed away in her sleep the night prior. And I lost it. I'll tell you, I lost it because I had all those feelings.
And you had, within a year, you lost your adoptive brother too, correct?
Yes.
So this is not just your biological mother that has passed, but years later now we've lost.
So
Cindy.
within a year and a half span, before my mom passed away, about a year and a half before that, I found out that my brother Brian was in an accident coming back from Vegas. He didn't have his seatbelt on, and he ended up dying. So I lost two really close people within the 2-year span. Again, the abandonment. A lot of stuff that I didn't deal with as a childhood came back full force. I want to say like maybe my drinking did get worse. I can't recall. But what I do know is that eventually that why is what came back and bit me.
So from high desert, now you come to Fresno. Now you guys moved to Fresno.
So my wife and I, we get married 2002. We do a geographical to Fresno. We pick up. And of course, I just kept going with exactly, I was still dabbing with some drugs, but mainly drinking. And so I want to share this. Within a 10-year span, I went through 7 programs and 5 detoxes. I separate the detox because sometimes I did a program without the detox, but eventually I needed the detox. And I ran amok for 15 years. And mind you, I have a family. I had off and on moments of trying to do good, but I also, I think eventually it subsided to where the drinking and the alcohol just took over. So I want to share what it looked like for me the last time I picked up. I don't want to go too in depth in that whole mess. We all know what we do in between, but this is where it ended up for me, my last go. I wake up and my wife's screaming. Is my wife here?
Oh, there she is.
Oh, there she is. Okay. She's here to keep me honest. So I wake up to my wife screaming, and she's screaming loud. Like, our house just got shot up. And then I pause. I'm coming to. And she says, I think our daughter just got hit with a bullet. And I could, I'm coming in and out. Mind you, this is the picture. Paint this picture. When I wake up at this point, like I wake up in full DTs. I wake up in full detox to where in order for me to function, I got to do what we do. So by the time we call the cops, I'm thinking I'm going to have every cop here in Fresno. The paramedics are coming. And where I was in the bathroom with a needle in my arm, trying to get right. And for once in my life, and let me share this. Like, I remember that bathroom that morning because I remember thinking, like, this is really where I'm at. This is where I'm at. I can't even be a supportive husband, a father to my daughter. And then when I self-medicate, like, I don't feel no more. I don't absorb any of the feelings. So my wife's in disarray. They're feeling alone at this point. And so within like 24 hours, I ended up at Exodus. You know what Exodus is? I ended up in a 3-day hold because of what happened in between the using, my daughter getting shot. And I remember walking in my front door, And my wife met me there. And she looked at me in the face, and she looked at me and she says, I'm leaving you. The only thing you know how to do is drink and use drugs. And I remember at that time, I had absolutely nothing to offer her. I broke down, and I remember just that complete, like, I had absolutely nothing to say. All I knew is I was going through a lot of feelings. I just got done with the 72-hour hold, so at that time, I was kind of almost at the end of a detox, pretty much. So I remember feeling all the feelings. I walked upstairs, and I broke down. I was crying. I'm sure the neighbors heard me crying. I share that because you hear about the incomprehensible demoralization, that gut feeling. And I broke down. The only person that, you're talking years of using, my wife, she stuck by my side until she couldn't anymore. And I really, truly believe that was exactly the way it needed to happen. Because what that showed me there is like I've done ran out of, like, I'm sorries. Just give me one more chance. She ended up leaving it, and what happened for me is I ended up in an apartment by myself, in my head, with a couple items that were left behind. And so what I do is I do a geographical, right? We run. I run. And so I do a geographical to Baco. Don't ask me why I went to Bakersfield.
Bakersfield.
Yeah.
But Bakersfield.
Yeah, I got.
If you know, you know.
To be truthful is I got, my sisters has always been by my side. Not my adopted sister. I look at my sisters and my adopted, they're all the same. But absolutely. I'm saying my sisters in Bakersfield, I honestly went over there to try to do better. I honestly did. But of course, left to my own devices, like, I'm weak. I ended up relapsing. And so I share this. I said what it looked like the last time I picked up, right? So out of all that, I still picked up. In Bakersfield, I ended up relapsing. And it was around December. And this is what it looked like the last time I picked up. I remember on Union Street, there's a Food Max. And I went behind the Food Max. I just went and scored. And I did a concoction of, at the time, I thought it was heroin. But later on, I'd find out there was fentanyl. I always mixed it with meth because that was my go-to. And I remember up until I don't remember no more, right? So I remember walking in the back of the store, fixing it, and then slamming, and I went into a complete blackout. The next thing I know, I was in the middle of Union Street in my drawers with a paramedic over me, bringing me back to life. And then the next thing I remember, because remember, there's different, like, I remember that, coming to, then I remember waking up, and I was handcuffed to a gurney at Kern County Medical Center. So I remember, and I had a cop right next to me. Back then, I was on a 6-year probation, so I remember exactly what the cop told me. And I always, there's certain stuff in your story where you're like, man, it's clear as day. The cop looked at me, he's like, he undid my handcuff, And he says, where do you want me to drop you off? I was like, what? You know? So he ends up, I said, drop me off at the train station in downtown Bakersfield. So he ends up dropping me off. Mind you, it's December 31st. It's cold. He drops me off. I'm in a blue hospital scrubby with the gray booties. I was found with no shoes on, so I had gray booty socks. And I'm not talking, you know those hospital blue scrubbies, they're like, you might as well wear it's really thin. So I'm sitting at the train depot, like how I am now, freezing, like just freezing my butt off. And I remember going into a fetal position.
Oh.
And mind you, I'm withdrawing and
Crawling out of your skin.
And I remember there was a homeless guy that came by and threw a blanket over me. He threw a blanket over me, and I remember holding onto that blanket. And then I got up, and I remember saying, F this. Like, is this where my life's come to? I have homeless guys giving me hand-me-downs. I can't get arrested right. F my life. You know, and I went in, you know, the big book talks about a self-pity mode, you know. I felt abandoned again. Through all those feelings of the abandonment, it came back full force, you know. And I remember thinking, like, my wife left me. My kids aren't around. And I chose my drinking and drugging. And that was my choice. And I owned it for once. I remember the next morning, I froze my butt off all night. And I walked to that exact Food Max store the next morning. And this is where I think God started doing for me what I couldn't do for myself. I walked to the store, and my sister was getting groceries for a New Year's Eve party. Remember, it was December 30th, all that. A New Year's Eve or New Year's Day party. And we bumped into each other. And she told me, come with me, brother. And mind you, by this time, like
You're going through it.
I went through it. You know? So I went to her house, and I remember detoxing. I had called CAP. And so I couldn't check into CAP because of all the holidays. So I ended up at CAP, which is Comprehension Addiction Program, January 2nd. And on the way over there, my sisters stopped and bought me some shoes. And I always joke around with her because she's all, she told me this. She says, I want you to go to detox, and I want you to reflect on everything that your life is. And she says, and I ain't getting you no fancy shoes because you'll leave and you'll try to sell them. And that's where I was. So I showed up January 2nd to Cap Detox. I changed into my own scrubbies. And I remember doing the whole intake. But I remember something that night. I couldn't sleep. I started smelling. You guys that's been in detox, you smell the smells. You're in detox, and you're like, damn, I'm back here again. I'm back here again. And then you start going, you start getting some clarity because you're already starting the detox process. And then guess what hits you? All your feelings, all the wreckage of your last run. Well, I didn't know it was my last run, but so I couldn't sleep. I go out, and I told Brian last night, I said, I remember grabbing a cigarette out of the ashtray thing, because I didn't have money for cigarettes, so I just picked one up, I lit it, and I walked out. And I threw it over the CAP detox fence. And I remember feeling, I don't know if it was anger, if it was just all the emotions. But I remember breaking down, and I remember saying, I'm tired. I'm tired. Every single thing I do, I fail. And I'm not missing the mark by a little. I'm missing it by a lot. And I remember for the first time, I said, you know what? Show me the way. I don't know. I don't know, you know. And I'd like to say, like, the stars out of heaven opened up and, like, God came down. But in essence, for me, it did. Because what I got back that day was a sense of willingness to do whatever it took to not end up in that spot.
Is that where you shared with me some scripture, Psalms? Is that where, you want to bring that up, Paul? Right there?
You go ahead and read it.
All right. The Lord is my shepherd. I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all these days of my life. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Psalms 23. So what is that? Why did we, explain that to me.
Psalms 23. So there was in my deepest, darkest days in my run, I was never abandoned. I always felt like there was a higher source that was always guiding me. There's been times where I felt alone, but the mere presence of just the hope got me by for the day. So that's why I like that scripture, yeah.
No, I love it. I love it. So you're at CAP. You're there. You're working hard in your recovery. And what's that like? What are you doing at CAP to move forward?
Okay, so I've been in 7 programs, 4 detoxes. Like, what's different this time?
Right.
You know, they know me by name in this program. I'll share this. I absolutely needed every rehab I went to. I absolutely needed every detox I went to. What that did for me is it gave me a moment of clarity so that I could reevaluate who I was. Through drug use and years of running amok for something that's so selfish, the first thing we lose is ourself, who we are. So I went through the whole program. I love CAP. That's why I love programs. But it was what I did after the program is what was different for me. I immediately reached out to my sponsor, who is my sponsor still to this day, and two relapses before that. And I was telling Brian yesterday, he looked at me and he said, Sal, he says, I'll take you through the 12 steps. He said, but this is the last time. And I was thinking, I asked him, I didn't know exactly what that meant, but I asked him a little while later, but what he was referring to is he says, Sal, you might need another, I might not be the sponsor for you. You might need someone, you know, we don't know. So right after that, he told me, he says, I'm going to take you through the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, but are you willing to carry the message? And at that point, I heard it loud and clear. Like for many years, it was all about what I could get. It was never what I could contribute. And he introduced me to our men's meeting. Some of the guys are here. that we meet up every Tuesday night. We meet up at the Red Church, and it's a men's meeting that I've been going to faithfully since day one. We check in and we read out of the Big Book on a weekly basis. But so I want to share this. I immediately jumped into service work. When I meant by, like, I went right into, after leaving, like you asked me, Brian, after leaving the program, I went back to be of service, and I stood close to that program. I opened.
What was the first thing you did? Do you remember? The first service commitment?
Yeah. So I went back, and I went to the detox center, and I remember there was a lady by the name of Elena. Some might know her. And I said, how can I be of service? And she handed me a toilet bowl scrubber and told me to clean the restrooms. So that was my first service commitment, was washing toilet bowls. And eventually I started a meeting, which was the Saturday night. In the beginning, it was speaker meeting at CAP every Saturday night at 7 p.m. That's where you will find. That's where you would find me. And I did that for a long time. I still do it, not as much. But I wanted to share that because early on, my sponsor was teaching me how to get out of self, you know. He asked me questions like, are you willing to go through any lengths? You know, honestly, open-mindedness and willingness are the key components. And so we started going through the steps, and, you know, we started digging into the reason why I love our group is because we all, like, my sponsor has a sponsor, and we all go through the exact same format. Immediately, he gets me into a priority list: God, AA service, a job, and then family. And I'm like, Billy, why is my family 4 on that list? And he says, Sal, if you got God in your life and you're making your meetings and you're being of service and you got a job and you're fully self-supporting, who benefits? Your family. So I was like, wow, you know.
So what are some of the favorite things you've done over the last, years in terms of service? I'm looking at all these pictures up here and all these good times up here. I know I know you've done a bunch. Why don't you share with us some of the really cool stuff that you've been part of, service-wise?
But before we go into service, is it okay if I go into?
Yeah.
Like I just want to share this. I absolutely love the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I came in here spiritually sick, spiritually defeated. I was failing in every aspect of my life. And as soon as I started abandoning myself with complete abandonment and practicing the powerlessness and unmanageability, and then believing in a source greater than myself, I was able to fully surrender. And you talk about being relieved from the bondage of self. What I suffer from is a committee that cuts me short. And then now I got to dig in deep. I got to go into a fearless inventory and really see where I'm at. And at this point, like, it's either you got to deal with it or you'll go back out. So I sat down in front of another alcoholic, drug addict, because he's also a drug addict, and I got honest, and I started sharing about all this stuff. What I found out is what I suffer from, only a spiritual experience can conquer it. What making meetings and being connected, what I learned was accountability and responsibility. So now we talk about, like, now I shared it. Now what are my feet doing? Now I need to get into action. You know, I need to go into some character defects, things that I've been affected by off of 15 years of running amok. People think, oh, like, you know, I used to think for so long, like, you know what, I ran amok for all these years. Don't you know I'm sober now? And in 30 days, like, I'm going to have my wits? It didn't work like that. I barely started getting something back after a year. And I share that because, like, if you're new, like, what they say is keep coming back. We'll love you till you can love yourself. But for me, what that taught me is love and tolerance. And I built some strong relationships off just that. So you talk about the action steps. I'm now able to work on some character defects. And guess what? I'm able to make an amends. And now it's not coming just out of my mouth. My feet are aligning to what's going really on. And that's called a living amends. Yes, sir. And so today, like, whenever I injure or harm somebody, it is my duty to before I lay, and I shared this, like, I got to make an apology and an amends before I lay my head down. Because what happens is, through working the steps, I build what you call a conscious contact with God, who leads and directs me. You know, I have an employer that's powerful. And I have to continue to turn it over on a daily basis. So then you go into sought through prayer and meditation to improve your conscious contact. Like, it's a daily reprieve. Today I get to carry the message that was so freely given to me, because through the steps, somewhere down the line, what happened was I stopped seeing what I could get and start seeing what I could contribute. I remember going to my sponsor somewhere, and I can't give you a date, and I remember saying, Billy, I'm going to meetings and I ain't hearing the freaking message. And he said, Sal, see, you're still seeing what you could get. Maybe you're put in the meetings to give the message. I'm still learning at this point. I'm still grasping. So today, what happens is, through working the steps and continue, because I'm never going to be healed but what I do today, the only difference, what makes me different between me and somebody who doesn't have a solution, is today my solution isn't to pick up a drink or drug. The obsession is completely removed. And God places, and after that, what happens is I had a spiritual awakening, and God places guys like, you know, guys like Eric, Moses, Kenny, Travis, Brian, Chad, Elias. You know, God places guys in my life that teach me and keep me accountable and do for me way more than what I could give them back. And all I did is reflect back on what my sponsor did for me early on. And I'll close with this part. Today, I lost my train of thought. Wow. Wow. I'm still messed up, guys, though. So today, the only kind of new experience I want to have is working with another alcoholic. Because what that does is it ensures me immunity from that next drink. God's grace, I haven't had to pick up another drug or drink in over 7.5 years.
Yeah. No, man, really cool. When I first met Sal, I was early in my recovery, and I'd see this guy coming into the rooms, Heroin Anonymous, and he would come in there, and he had this vibe about you. And I remember when you would come in, and then you were always doing these cool events, and you were always sharing these cool events with everyone. And as I got a chance to know you a little bit more, I started to see you at different meetings, and it was as if you were trying to show everyone in sobriety how cool sobriety is, like how fun sobriety can be. And if it's one thing I've learned from you, it's sobriety. I mean, we have to face those fears. We have to face those doubts head on, and it's the only way out is through. And by staring those fears and doubts right in the face, we're able to move on with our life, not just physically healthier, but spiritually healthier. So, one thing that I wanted to get to before we get out of here is some of the stuff that you've done. I'd like for you to share with everyone all the cool stuff that you've done, been part of, commitments, service, some of the cool events that you've been a part of with a lot of people in here, just so they can hear it too. And some of the stuff that you got coming on in the future.
Sure. Let me first say this while I pull this up. I can't take credit. I've been part of some good committees. Like, for me to take credit for what, I've always jumped into service commitments, and I'll share this. Like, I never knew what the heck I was doing. But what happens is God places people in your path that show you, and then you're able to be a part of a committee, and you grow together. So
Community, absolutely.
I don't want to ever underestimate the people that's been a part of this. And give me 1 minute while I pull this up, because sometimes...
You got it right here.
Oh, here it is.
Service commitments. You scrub toilets at the CAP rehab. That was the best one.
There we go.
All right, Secretary CAP, AA meetings for 7 years. Tuffy Paw, which is?
Tulare unified with Fresno Young People of Alcoholics Anonymous.
Right.
So I was the chair for the bidding committee. We went up to Sacramento. We placed a bid. Prior to that, there were some expectations that we had to meet, which you call a bidding package. Our committee went up to Sacramento. Some people are here that were part of that. And we were awarded ACI 49, which is all of California Young People of Alcoholics Anonymous. For that, I picked up, and mind you, for Tulare United with Fresno Young People of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was hospitality, in-reach, outreach. I got involved. What I learned too is I just wanted to be a part of something.
How important is service to you? So for the newcomer that's out here today, how important is it?
So the importance of service work, people might say I'm sober today because I jumped right into service. I knew that left to my own devices in this head, like an idle mind is the devil's playground. So I just stood busy. I'm still busy to this day. Some things don't change, but so yeah, we were awarded the ACI 49, and I'll share this too, because my thing is if somebody wants to be of service, like, you could do anything, as long as it's something to get out of self, It doesn't have to be like of what I do. Find something that works for you. But somewhere down the line, like, I get to do stuff. Early on, it was like, man, I got a business. Eventually it just became like, this is part of my life, So yeah, we were rewarded ACI 49. I did events. So that was the first ACI pod that had a 2-year committee because of COVID. Remember the whole COVID thing? No, right? No. So the whole COVID thing happened, and then what happened was it paused the whole ACIPA. So we had to do a thing on Zoom, but we were missing something. So we waited to the whole, what do you call it? Regulations got lifted, and then we were able to host ACI 49. So what my spot was events. I had to put on an event, one event per month for a year straight until we got to host ACIPA. So without going too much in debt, because there's too much underlining there, and then when we got to ACIPA, I was the entertainment chair, which got to host all the cool events that happened there. And so just recently, last year, we hosted that. I was the chair for the NCCAA. Some of you guys were there. That's Northern California Council of Alcoholics Anonymous. Recently, what I'm up to now, I became a board member with Fentanyls Anonymous.
Yeah, that's right, Fentanyl Anonymous.
I'm bridging it. I'm bridging something there, but just look at my root. My roots are with AA. But that's
he is the coach for AA. Hey, real quick here,
I love what I do is I always go where the need is greater, and I'll tell you, man, Fentanyls Anonymous is like I see God working in all this. Like you're talking to somebody who practically died his last go around, you know. So, and I just want to say, what's most important to me is the people who I work with, my sponsees, because I cannot keep what I have unless I continue to give it away. Today, I'm happy to be of service. Who knows? I never plan. See, my plans fail, so we'll see what God has in store. That's all. And I keep saying that because God opens doors. And I'm not even, you know, they say you'll be amazed before you're halfway done, but I've been amazed since day one, you know, so.
Real quick, before we close up here, let's talk about, real quick with 1 minute, the resort. You guys opened up the resort over there.
Yes, so December 1st.
Which is pretty cool.
Me and my boy Chad, we opened up the resort Sober Living. It's a 11-bed sober living
there's
house.
Some people in here from the resort, yeah? There we go. Yeah,
there's some guys here.
There we are.
There's some guys here.
Yeah, that's right. Big
That's
party
right.
coming up, right? Is there July 4th?
Big event coming up July 4th. Dang, I didn't even plan on giving a punch to the July 4th,
Hey,
but
I'm
we'll do
trying.
it, all right?
Yeah.
We're going to have a big event coming up. Everyone's invited. We got 5 speakers lined up. Kenny's one of them. Woo!
Yeah, Kenny.
Look forward to that. All are welcome. It's going to be a pool party DJ. You mentioned something that's, pool party DJ. But you mentioned something. Let's go. For many years, when I remember early on thinking to myself, damn, I'm going to get sober and my life's going to go to, you know, without using bad words, I'm never going to have fun again. But let me tell you, being sober and clean is the best freaking thing that ever happened to me. I've met the people. You guys are my tribe. I don't care if it's CAAAFAHA. I'm here.
There it is. Sometimes God takes you on a journey that you didn't think you needed, only to give you everything you ever wanted. And I hope Recovery's giving you everything, Sal, because you are definitely a huge pillar in this community. Let's give it up for Sal. Yeah. Should we close out with the Lord's Prayer, Sal? Want to close out with the Lord's Prayer?
Sure. Let's all stand.
Let's
stand.
do it.
Let's do it.
I'll have you lead us out.
Again, we'll pause for a moment of silence for those who still struggle. Some of us don't make it.